Chapter 41. Who Intercepted My Opportunity? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41. Who Intercepted My Opportunity? This strange feeling reminded Chen Beixian of yesterday when he went to the Hidden Dragon Valley. His heart skipped a beat. Could something have happened to the Chaos Divine Fruit? The Chaos Divine Fruit was one of his greatest opportunities. In his previous life, he had relied on this opportunity to successfully break through to the Illumination realm. He gradually rose through the ranks in the Empyrean Sword sect. Finally, he became the Reincarnation Emperor who was revered throughout the world. Did anything happen to the Chaos Divine Fruit? Then it will undoubtedly be even more difficult if I want to advance in this life. I must be imagining things. The Chaos Divine Fruit is still a month away from ripening. Moreover, there are more than 10,000 Illumination Realm primordial beast descendants around fighting for the Divine Fruit. Without the strength of the Emperor Realm, they will not succeed. With a gloomy and uncertain expression, Chen Beixian tried to comfort himself. In his previous life, the reason why he was able to obtain the Chaos Divine Fruit from tens of thousands of primordial descendants with his third-level Divine Sea strength was because of this breath control technique. In his previous life, even with his breath control technique, he had almost died in the Grand Myriad Mountains. It was evident how terrifying the strength of the primordial ferocious beast descendants was. Chen Beixian comforted himself, but the emptiness in his heart did not go away. Instead, the feeling intensified. Feeling irritated, Chen Beixian stopped hesitating and sped through the forest like an arrow. He intended to check out the Chaos Divine Fruit in advance. This time, I must wait beside the Divine Fruit until it ripens. Using the breath control technique, Chen Beixian did not attract the attention of the primordial ferocious beasts after entering the depths of the Grand Myriad Mountains. It was a long journey. Only then did he notice that he did not encounter many ferocious beasts along the way. How could it have been so smooth? Where are the ferocious beasts? He thought about it. He just had to attribute the reason to breath control technique. After Chen Beixian was reborn, the first thing he did was to give up on the Hidden Dragon Valley's true dragon blood and the Black Mountain Stronghold's heaven-splitting mantra. This was because this breath control technique was extremely magical. In his previous life, he had relied on this breath control technique to escape the pursuit of many enemies. With the technique, he took to the mystic realm like a duck to water. So Shen Ran planned to challenge that. He was willing to give up the other two opportunities to obtain the breath control technique. After collecting the Chaos Divine Fruit, I'd wait for a month for the opening of the primordial mystic realm of the Great Yan Dynasty. Chen Beixian thought. That will be the time for me to achieve fame throughout the southern region. This primordial mystic realm was left behind by Emperor Yan, who was as famous as the Yellow Emperor in ancient times. The Great Sun True Flame, the #1 divine flame in the world, was in the realm. It had great power. In his previous life, Chen Beixian had heard that this item had been taken by a poor boy from an insignificant family. Now that I'm reborn, I naturally have to obtain this opportunity. He thought to himself. However, if I want to obtain the Great Sun True Flame, I have to find Holy Maiden Qingyao who is hiding in the hole of the ancient Fusang tree in the mystic realm. The descendants of the Great Yan Dynasty carry the bloodline of the ancient Emperor Yan. We might have a chance to compete with this poor kid from a small family for the Great Sun True Flame. This opportunity in the primordial mystic realm did not belong to him in his previous life. Instead, it was obtained by a mysterious man from Canaan City. He was an enigma. Chen Beixian knew very little about him. When he became the Reincarnation Emperor, the other party was not weak either. Although he had yet to become a martial monarch realm expert, he was comparable to one. Since I have been reborn, the other party's opportunity belongs to me. He fantasized about marrying Holy Maiden Qingyao, obtaining the Great Sun True Flame, and becoming the Reincarnation Emperor. Soon. Chen Beixian looked at the secluded valley in front of him with excitement. I've finally arrived. A dense colorful aura hovered over the hidden valley, and an inexplicable fragrance kept wafting out. Smelling this strange fragrance, he felt as if his entire body had become much lighter. He entered the valley eagerly. But when he saw what was in the valley, he was stunned. There was no chaos divine fruit in front of him. There was only a withered tree. Chen Beixuan's face was dark and scary, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. What's going on? There's clearly still a month before the chaos divine fruit ripens. How could it have ripened in advance? Could it be that because of my rebirth, the heavenly Tao has activated its world intervention? As he speculated on this, he became fearful. If the opportunity that belonged to him had been interfered with, then what was the point of him being reborn? With his talent, he would at most be at the illumination realm in his lifetime. Compared to being a heavenly emperor in his previous life, there was a huge difference. Chen Beixian, who had broken out in a cold sweat, felt that something was wrong. Something is not right. If it's because of my rebirth that the heavenly Tao changed and interfered with all my opportunities, then how did I acquire the breath control technique without a hitch? He thought about it. He didn't think it was interference from the heavenly Tao. In his previous life, the breath control technique and the chaos divine fruit were both opportunities that belonged to him. It made no sense that after he obtained the breath control technique, the chaos divine fruit was intercepted by the heavenly Tao. Then there was only one possibility left. His opportunity had been seized by someone else. Thinking of the true dragon blood in the deep pool of the hidden dragon valley, Chen Beixian felt that this might be done by the same person. Immediately, he felt indescribably aggrieved. Who intercepted my opportunity? Don't let me find you. Otherwise, I'll definitely tear you to pieces. Chapter 42. Summoned by the Peak Master, Sect Tournament. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42. Summoned by the Peak Master, Sect Tournament. Shen Ran returned to the 8th peak of the Empyrean Sword Sect from the Grand Myriad Mountains. He did not know that Chen Beixian was going crazy. He was now at the 2nd level of the Illumination Realm. In the Empyrean Sword Sect, one could become a Tao seed with such a cultivation level. After all, Wang Qingxian, who had consumed the blood cloud powder, was only at the 3rd level of the Illumination Realm. However, cultivation was cultivation, and combat power was combat power. Shen Ran, who had these top qualifications like the ancient desolate sacred body, the ancient immortal eyes, and the invincible supreme bones, could kill a cultivator who had just broken through to the illumination realm with just a drop of spiritual fluid from within his body. If he used one of the ancient 7 transformations, the Azure Dragon transformation, he could instantly increase his combat strength 100-fold. Even if he was up against the 4th level of Illumination Realm, he would still have the strength to fight. But there was a caveat. He wanted to overthrow Wang Qingxian completely. The other party was not only a member of the demon cult, but also one of the Tao seeds of the Empyrean Sword Sect. If he died without rhyme or reason, the sect elders would definitely investigate the matter. So Shen Ran planned to destroy his reputation first. Then he would take steps to eliminate him. But how should he make Wang Qingyuan expose his identity as a member of the demon sect? Shen Ran ran into a snag thinking of this problem. Killing this person is not difficult. The difficult part is how to do it in the name of righteousness. Without realizing it, he had already reached his residence on the 8th summit. Looking at the frowning Shen Ran, Shen Yueshuang gently walked behind him and stretched out her fair arms. Brother Shen, what are you thinking about? Shen Ran felt a pair of small hands gently massaging his head. Enjoying it, he spoke calmly. It's nothing. Dealing with Wang Qingxian was his personal matter. If Shen Yueshuang knew about this, it would do her no good. She had just come into contact with cultivation and her bloodline had yet to be activated. Isn't she destined to be the famous Empress Divine Phoenix in the future? By the way, Peak Master Luo sent someone to inform you to go to his place when you return today. Hearing that Luo Qifeng was looking for him, Shenran was a little puzzled. Ever since he became the chief disciple of the 8th summit, Luo Qifeng had never summoned him. Why am I suddenly summoned this time? He wondered. He immediately asked Shen Yueshuang. What did Peak Master Luo say? In the eyes of outsiders, Shen Yueshuang's current identity was just Shenran's maid. So she did not know what it was about. Shenran spent a few moments contemplating this. Then he decided to meet Elder Luo. After changing his clothes slowly and washing up, Shenran pushed open the door and walked out of the cabin. He looked up at the clear, cloudless sky. It was late spring in April. There was fragrance in the wind. He walked along a path in the beautiful spring day, and cut across a hill until he came to an attic on the summit. In front of the attic, he activated the ancient sacred body and concealed his true cultivation under the guise of a level 7 divine sea realm cultivator. When he was done, he cupped his fists. Shenran requests an audience with Peak Master. Immediately, the attic door swung open with an invisible force. As soon as he walked in, he saw Luo Qifeng looking over happily. Good. As expected of the chief disciple of my 8th summit. Shenran was a little confused by Luo Qifeng's praise. Before he could say anything, Luo Qifeng stroked his goatee with a grin. I called you here to discuss the preparation for the sect tournament in 2 weeks, he said. The sect tournament. It all clicked. Every 3 years, the Empyrean Sword sect would hold a sect tournament. Among them, the inner sect was the strongest. The tournament mainly assessed the strengths of the disciples of the various peaks. Next, the sect would allocate the resources to the various peaks accordingly. After all, the sect had limited resources. It would be impossible for every peak to have a massive amount of resources. He was the chief disciple of the 8th summit. Luo Qifeng would naturally entrust the strongest person on the 8th summit to compete at the tournament. Shenran understood and cupped his fists at Luo Qifeng. So it's about this matter. I'll do my best in the tournament. I will fight for first place for the 8th summit. Hearing this, the joy on Luo Qifeng's face grew. As expected of someone at the 3rd level Divine Sea Realm who could kill Hong Jing at the 6th level Divine Sea Realm. This temperament is extraordinary. Which ordinary disciple would not be subservient to him, a peak master? But Shenran was neither servile nor overbearing. Apart from entrusting something to Shenran, Luo Qifeng also wanted to see him. Recently, Shenran had become famous in the sect. Many elders had come over to ask about him. As the peak master, he did not even know as much as others. It was simply a dereliction of duty. Shenran had made the 8th summit famous recently, and Luo Qifeng was not stingy. He raised his hand and waved. Spiritual light appeared in his hand. Immediately after, a small porcelain bottle appeared in his palm. L.RG, this is the green jade pill that I had refined. It can help one break through to the next level in the Divine Sea Realm. Take it. Don't feel pressured in this inner sect tournament. Looking at this green jade pill, Shenran did not know whether to laugh or cry. In the past, he would have been overjoyed. After all, it could help a divine sea expert break through once. However, he was already at the illumination realm now. The pill was useless to him. The effects of the green jade pill on him would be minimal now. But it could be used by Shen Yueshuang. This was proof. He had gradually captured the attention of the higher-ups of the Empyrean Sword sect. No wonder the system noted that I would rise in the Empyrean Sword sect. It was right. Shenran did not think too much about it. It's a joke, but he thought. He had the ancient desolate sacred body, the invincible supreme bones, the ancient immortal eyes, and other top-notch talents. He could be considered a peerless genius. He should be taken seriously by the experts of the Empyrean sword sect. Otherwise, the Empyrean sword sect deserved to fall. Chapter 43. Killing Intent from Wang Qingxian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 43. Killing Intent from Wang Qingxian. Meanwhile, the muddled-headed Chen Beixian returned to the Empyrean sword sect from the Grand Myriad Mountains. He could not accept that the Chaos Divine Fruit had been intercepted. He could not do without the Chaos Divine Fruit to build a foundation for him. His rise would undoubtedly slow down a lot. Therefore, Chen Beixian hated that person who had intercepted his opportunity to the core. But no amount of hatred would help. Ednel.co He did not know who had intercepted his opportunity. Although the Chaos Divine Fruit is gone, I can try to shine at the upcoming sect tournament. In this sect tournament, the top 5 persons can enter the first peak of Patriarch Empyrean to cultivate for 10 days. As long as I seize this opportunity to increase my strength to the 5th level of the Divine Sea Realm, the subsequent trip to the Great Yen Dynasty's Mystic Realm will be much easier. He pondered over this. The pain in his aching heart gradually subsided. In his previous life, he relied on this small opportunity to successfully enter the first summit's mystic realm to cultivate. From the 3rd level of the Divine Sea Realm to the 5th level of the Divine Sea Realm, when the Great Yen Dynasty's mystic realm appeared, the Empyrean sword sect sent them as the first batch of disciples to enter. I can't lose in this coming sect tournament. Just you wait. This sect tournament is my chance to soar into the sky. Those geniuses will be trampled under my feet. I, Chen Beixian, the Reincarnation Emperor, will walk to the extreme of the martial Tao step by step, overlooking the world's mountains and rivers. Chen Beixian clenched his fists and made an oath. The disciples who were happy about the sect tournament quickly produced a heated clamor in the Empyrean sword sect. And yet, in an attic on the 4th summit, as one of the 3 Tao seeds of the Empyrean sword sect, Wang Qingxian was extremely frustrated. Without the blood cloud powder to cultivate, his cultivation speed was as slow as a snail compared to previous geniuses. At this moment, someone suddenly pushed open the door hurriedly. A 5th level Divine Sea disciple rushed in anxiously. Your Highness, bad news. Moya was killed. Wang Qingxian, who was already in a bad mood, immediately lit up like a gunpowder barrel when he heard that Moya had been killed. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Who did this? Moya was one of his most capable trusted aides. With the strength of the 9th level of the Divine Sea Realm, they were all core disciples of the demon sect. Now, he actually died in the Empyrean sword sect. Could it be that guy called Shen Ran? He thought. But isn't the other party at the 3rd level of the Divine Sea Realm? How could he kill Moya, who was at the 8th level of the Divine Sea Realm? Facing the furious Wang Qingxian, the disciple said with trepidation. Your Highness, after we discovered that Shen Ran had walked out of the mountain gate alone, we asked Moya to kill him. We didn't expect Shen Ran to actually hide his strength. He's not at the 3rd level of the Divine Sea Realm, but the 6th level. In the end, Moya was killed by Shen Ran before he could even make 10 moves. Hearing that he had actually fallen into Shen Ran's hands, Wang Qingxian's face darkened and he gritted his teeth. It's this guy again. I must tear him into pieces. It was because of this Shen Ran that all the people whom he sent to get the blood cloud powder were dead and the blood cloud powder was lost. Now, it was again because of Shen Ran that his trusted subordinate, Moya, was dead. How could Wang Qingxian not be angry? He, who was already in a bad mood, immediately got up from his chair. His entire body was filled with anger, and he lifted the clouds above the 4th summit. Your Highness. Don't be rash. Your Highness. If we go out and kill Shen Ran now, it will expose the disciples of the divine sect. Your Highness, looking at the livid Wang Qingxian, many demon cult disciples in the attic spoke immediately. If Wang Qingxian went out and killed Shen Ran, wouldn't that be equivalent to announcing his identity? If the Empyrean Sword sect was alerted and began to investigate, all the demon cult disciples who had infiltrated the Empyrean Sword sect this year would die immediately. Some demon cult disciples tried to persuade him. Your Highness, there's still half a month left before the Empyrean Sword sect tournament. Shen Ran is the chief disciple of the 8th Summit, and he will definitely participate. During the tournament, we could accidentally land him a heavy blow, then wouldn't Shen Ran's life be in our hands? The furious Wang Qingxian relented reluctantly when he heard this. He might be angry, but he wasn't brainless. If all the demon cult disciples died, he would have no way out. Moreover, his family would be implicated too. Seeing that his enemy was right in front of him but he could not take revenge, Wang Qingxian gritted his teeth in hatred. Okay. Then let's see how many lives you, Shen Ran, have during the sect tournament. Wang Qingxuan's anger did not disturb Shen Ran, who was in seclusion. At this moment, he had entered the most critical moment. The bones in his body were emitting a dazzling golden light. His blood surged in his veins and let out a thunderous roar, like a surging river. The liquefied spiritual energy in his body surged like waves. This made his whole body emit a terrifying aura. Shen Ran sat cross-legged. The invincible supreme bones in his body emitted endless dazzling light. A stream of Tao current flowed around his body, and dense spiritual energy formed a boundless spiritual energy vortex around him. Hoo-hoo, a moment later. When his aura gradually calmed down, Shen Ran slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were bright and shining like the dark night sky. It was as if they could traverse the ages and see through all illusions. I've finally stabilized my second-level illumination realm. Chapter 44. Go to the abyss of death and obtain your listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. Go to the abyss of death and obtain the opportunity of the demon cult's blood cloud powder. Shen Ran did not break through to a higher realm this time, however, he completely absorbed the medicinal power of the chaos divine fruit. His current physical strength was comparable to that of a primordial ferocious beast. If he encountered that ferocious ape in the Grand Myriad Mountains again that he saw yesterday before breaking through to the illumination realm, the outcome would have been different. He would kill it immediately with his powerful physical strength. His current physical power was now comparable to a true dragon. It could be said that no one below the illumination realm could withstand a punch from him now. More importantly, in addition to his physical strength, his divine sense had also increased significantly. As he spread out his divine sense, the entire 8th Summit seemed to be under his control. The breath of every grass and every tree. The cool breeze. The circulation of air. In fact, what those outer sect disciples were doing at the foot of the 8th Summit was reflected in his mind. Moreover, he could feel that he had connected with the spiritual energy in heaven and on earth. Next, I'll wait for the sect tournament in half a month and the Great Yen Dynasty's mystic realm in a month. However, before that, I will need to increase my strength as much as possible. Shen Ran contemplated for a moment. Then he got out of his residence. He headed to the mission hall to look for opportunities. Soon he arrived at the mission hall. He swept his gaze habitually across all the ordinary disciples present. This is an ordinary disciple of the Empyrean Sword sect. His talent is ordinary. If nothing goes wrong, he will live an ordinary life. An ordinary disciple of the Empyrean Sword sect. If nothing goes wrong, he will live an ordinary life. Ordinary disciple. Ordinary life. Shen Ran took a look at all the ordinary disciples in the mission hall. He did not see an ordinary disciple with an opportunity. Could it be that I have to work hard to get the best deal out of Chen Beixian? He frowned. Chen Beixian, the reincarnation emperor who had been reborn, knew countless opportunities. Still, He encountered just 3 recently. The true dragon blood of the hidden dragon mountain, the chaos divine fruit, and the heaven-splitting sword technique left behind by the peerless sword god. Besides, he had obtained all these opportunities before Chen Beixian. The upcoming opportunity was the Great Yan dynasty's mystic realm. He had to wait until next month. At the entrance of the mission hall, he waited for a long time but did not discover any new opportunities. Shen Ran sighed in exasperation. It seems that not everyone in the Empyrean sword sect can obtain opportunities. After some thought, he prepared to return to his residence. But there was a caveat. As soon as he turned around and left, a disciple in a green robe walked over. When the disciple saw the token hanging at his waist, he bowed respectfully. "Greetings, first senior brother. This is an ordinary disciple of the Empyrean sword sect. His talent is not bad. In order to win the upcoming sect tournament, he went to the Grand Myriad Mountains to find spiritual herbs. However, his destiny was rather tragic. He did not obtain the spiritual herbs but was chased away by a Marquis Golden, winged eagle and fell into the abyss of death. In the abyss of death, he discovered that this was actually a demon cult stronghold. He was a 5th level cultivator of the Divine Sea realm. Faced with the attack of more than 100 Divine Sea demon cult disciples, he relied on his astonishing perseverance to lure the demon cult disciples and 2 Illumination realm disciples to fight the Golden, winged eagle. In the end, he reaped the benefits as the third party. In the abyss of death, he discovered a large amount of blood cloud powder. After consuming the blood cloud powder, he successfully broke through to the Illumination realm and shone brightly in the sect tournament. But in the end, he was killed by the Dao Seed, Wang Qingxian. His childhood sweetheart was also humiliated to death by Wang Qingxian and his family was destroyed. After seeing this narrative, Shen Ran was a little stunned. Good God! He did not expect this disciple's fate to be so tragic. Before he could rise, he was killed by Wang Qingxian. Didn't he die before he could succeed? In the past, most of the narratives he read were about disciples rising to prominence after obtaining opportunities. This was the first time he had seen such bad luck. A large amount of blood cloud powder. In that case, that place must be a stronghold of the demon sect. No wonder Wang Qingxian dares to send people to invade the Empyrean sword sect. So he has his lair in the abyss of death. And he refines the blood cloud powder there. The abyss of death. In the middle of the Grand Myriad Mountains. Even if ordinary people knew where the demon cult disciples' stronghold was, they could not enter. This was because it was filled with primordial ferocious beasts at the Illumination realm or even the Marquis realm. No wonder I happened to encounter Wang Qingxuan's 2 sidekicks when I was hunting the 7th level Qi refinement realm Fierce Cloud Leopard outside the Grand Myriad Mountains. It seems that they just returned from the abyss of death with the blood cloud powder. Well, since you can do it, don't blame me for being ruthless. After memorizing this narrative in detail, Shen Ran nodded at the disciple with sympathy in his eyes. Yi Shaoqing saw the sympathy in Senior Shen's eyes and rubbed his head, feeling doubtful. I must be mistaken, that he thought. How could I have the sympathy of senior brother Shen Ran? Yi Shaoqing had a childhood sweetheart who was also a disciple of the 8th summit. The 2 of them usually went out together, making others envious. Then there was the background. The Yi family was an influential family that had taken root in the Empyrean sword sect since it was established. Many elders of the Empyrean sword sect had ties with the Yi family. Seeing that Yi Shaoqing was looking suspicious, Shen Ran returned to his residence quickly. The system's narrative stated that the date was June 20th. Which was tomorrow. There were more than 100 demon cult disciples and 2 Illumination realm cultivators. He needed to get ready to take on so many of them. Chapter 45. Killing Brightness with One Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. Killing Brightness with One Sword. It was night. A bright moon hung in the sky, and the pure white moonlight scattered on the ground, covering it with a layer of silver frost. In the Empyrean sword sect, a figure dashed from the 8th summit and flew towards the Grand Myriad Mountains. This person was Shinran. After obtaining information about the demon cult disciples and a large number of blood cloud powder in the death abyss during the day, he made his preparations. Naturally, he would not pass up this opportunity, especially after knowing that taking the blood cloud powder would increase one's cultivation speed by 20 times. He possessed the top-notch ancient desolate sacred body, invincible supreme bones, ancient immortal eyes, and a series of other monstrous physiques. However, being too talented was sometimes a problem. Now, every time he increased his strength, he needed a huge amount of resources. Without the help of resources, it would take a long time before he could become a true Emperor Realm expert even if he had the highest aptitude. Having restrained his aura, he flew quickly through the Grand Myriad Mountains. This was because he had absorbed the Chaos Divine Fruit during the day and used the Azure Dragon transformation of the ancient 7 transformations when he encountered tens of thousands of Enlightenment Realm ferocious beasts. His majestic aura of a true dragon suppressed an area of 10,000 miles, causing many ferocious beasts to escape. As a result, he did not encounter the attacks of ferocious beasts along the way. The journey was uneventful. As he approached the center of the Grand Myriad Mountains, he realized that the surroundings were filled with turbulence and black gas. If one was not careful, even a divine sea realm disciple might die here. As expected of the Abyss of Death, he thought. It was rumored that the Abyss of Death was formed by several true emperors fighting in the Grand Myriad Mountains tens of thousands of years ago. This battle between the true emperors was the battle of the demonic path. Later on, a demon cult's true emperor died here, causing the ground to be corroded by his blood. Only then did a deep abyss appear. Time passed, and although the true emperor's blood had long been exhausted, the remnant law and Tao power sent a large amount of black fog out of the abyss. This black gas was very corrosive. Even a divine sea realm cultivator who was not careful and inhaled it would find his cultivation regressing at best, or in serious cases, he would die on the spot. Over time, the Abyss of Death became a forbidden area in the Grand Myriad Mountains. Of course, to others, this black gas was a fatal threat. However, Shinran, who had the ancient immortal eyes, did not have to worry too much. His eyes flickered as they pierced through the void and shattered everything under his feet. He discovered all the places that would suddenly produce turbulence and black gas. He passed through these places cautiously. An hour later, Shinran came upon a bottomless ravine. It looked as if some ancient ferocious beast would climb out of it. I'm here finally. Looking at the Abyss of Death in front of him, he activated his immortal eyes and looked up. The next moment, the Abyss of Death revealed its true appearance. So, in the sky above the abyss, a mystic realm was formed because of the remaining law and Tao power. When the demon cult discovered this mystic realm, they made it their stronghold. Firstly, this place was deep in the Grand Myriad Mountains. It was very convenient to look for spiritual herbs and hunt ferocious beasts here. Secondly, the Abyss of Death was very close to the Empyrean sword sect. The most direct route between them was no more than 10,000 miles. It could be said that it was under the nose of the Empyrean sword sect. Shinran raised his hand and waved. In an instant, a spiritual light shot out and entered the void in front of him. Buzz buzz buzz. An ear-piercing sound came suddenly from the void. Immediately, there was a cracking sound, as if a mirror had been broken. A dark hole suddenly appeared in front of him. This was because the violent break that instantly alarmed the demon cult disciples in the Abyss of Death. Who is being impudent here? Immediately, a black light shot out of the dark hole. The person was dressed in black and the pressure emitted by his aura was at the 6th level of the divine sea realm. When this demon cult disciple saw the uniform of the Empyrean sword sect that Shinran was wearing, his expression changed drastically. He thought they had been discovered by the Empyrean sword sect. However, when he spread out his divine sense and scanned an area of nearly 100 miles, he did not find anyone from the Empyrean sword sect. The demon cult disciple rushed over with a sword in hand. Kill. Seeing this, Shenran could not help but shake his head. Without a word, he punched him. Boom. His physical body, which was comparable to the power of a true dragon, immediately blasted this person's torso into a bloody mist. After killing this demon cult disciple guarding the door, Shenran did not restrain his aura and swaggered in. Who are you? Enemy attack. As soon as he walked in, the demon cult disciples rushed towards him. Kill. Shenran, who was at the second level of the illumination realm, remained calm when he was under the siege of more than 100 of them. With a punch, 8 or 9 demon cult disciples were shattered into pieces. Not long after, more than 100 divine sea ream cultivators were instantly killed by Shenran. By now Shenran had arrived at the bottom of the abyss of death. The path behind him was filled with twisted corpses of the demon cult disciples. By a rough estimate, he had killed more than 100 demon cult disciples. Basically, all the divine sea realm demon cult disciples had been killed by him. They were all insta-killed. The death of more than 100 disciples immediately attracted the attention of the 2 illumination realm cultivators who were guarding this place. In an instant, 2 long beams of light flashed before Shenran. When they saw the pile of corpses of the demon cult disciples behind him, their expressions turned dark and scary. One of them, a middle-aged man with a 4th level illumination realm cultivation and a face full of strange totems, frowned in fury. How dare you? This is not a place for you to be impudent. As he spoke, his 3rd level of the enlightenment realm strength erupted. The strange totems on his face glowed with black light, causing his skin to turn red and the dense spider web-like veins on his body to appear and throb. Another demon cult cultivator at the 2nd level of the illumination realm took out a black skeleton staff immediately. Noisy. Looking at the 2 of them, Shenran raised his hand, and the Emperor's heart appeared in his hand. Then, with a light wave, a dazzling flash from his sword broke through the clouds. The sharp sword chi seemed to cut through the void. He waited for the sword's light to dissipate. The 2 demon cult cultivators were instantly reduced to dust. Chapter 46. Ancient Immortal Eyes activated. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 46. Ancient Immortal Eyes activated. After dealing with these 2 demon cult cultivators, Shenran spread out his divine sense and swept through the abyss of death. Only then did he confirm that all the members of the demon cult here had died in his hands. There were more than 100 of them. Most of them were divine sea realm cultivators. There were only 2 illumination realm experts. However, if an ordinary person who had just broken through to the illumination realm faced the attack of so many demon cult disciples, he would have perished. After looking away, Shenran made a hand seal. In an instant, a large sheet of hot flames flew towards the corpses on the ground. A moment later, the corpses of all the demon cult disciples were burned to ashes by the flames. After doing this, he flew into the depths of the valley unhurriedly. The main reason why so many demon cult disciples were hiding here was to collect the raw materials to refine the blood cloud powder. All the way, Shenran discovered many spiritual herbs. There was Lingji, the size of a palm. It looked like a flame that emitted a scorching heat. It emitted a dense fire element spiritual energy, heating the surrounding air until it rose. There was ginseng that was the size of an arm. It was purplish like jasper and emitted a strange fragrance. Just smelling it made one's body feel light. He ventured further. He discovered a pool on the ground that emitted a dense spiritual energy. It seemed like frozen spring water. Fire Lingji, purple mystic ginseng, heaven and earth spirit marrow. No wonder they located their stronghold in the abyss of death. These are all spiritual herbs from the Grand Myriad Mountains. After he had killed those demon cult disciples, he naturally reaped the benefits of the spiritual herbs. Although he did not know how to refine pills, there were alchemists in the Empyrean sword sect. It was better than nothing. Shen Ran waved his hand and placed these rare spiritual herbs into his storage bag. Only then did he realize that there was no sign of the blood cloud powder along the way. Where is the blood cloud powder mentioned in the system narrative? His purpose in coming to the abyss of death this time was for the blood cloud powder. After all, this was a top-notch treasure that could increase cultivation speed 20 times. Even in a demon cult, there were rare items. This was extremely precious. Shen Ran's divine sense spread out and instantly enveloped the abyss for thousands of miles. His thread-like divine sense kept searching every inch of the ground. Soon, he noticed something unusual in a cave hundreds of miles away. Every time his divine sense swept across the cave, there was no response. This immediately attracted his attention. One had to know. He was now a second-level illumination realm cultivator. When his divine sense was in full swing, it was enough to sweep through the entire 8th summit. The 8th summit had a radius of 1,000 miles. How could it be blocked by a cave? Sensing that something was amiss, Shen Ran rose into the air, turned into a rainbow, and flew away. A few seconds later, he reached the cave. His dark eyes flickered with spiritual light, and his immortal eyes pierced through the mountain. In the depths of the cave, he saw a pill furnace. Inside the pill furnace was the blood cloud powder he had been looking for. So this is it. Seeing this, Shen Ran heaved a sigh of relief. He turned his palm up and the Emperor's heart appeared in his hand. Break! With a loud shout, the Emperor's heart emitted a powerful sword intent that instantly cut through the void in front of him. Crack! The space in front of Shen Ran exploded like a broken mirror. In an instant, an extremely dense spiritual energy formed a wave of air that gushed out of the cave. Without hesitation, Shen Ran formed a claw with his fingers and took out the blood cloud powder from the pill furnace. He looked at the blood cloud powder that was emitting a blood-colored fluorescent light in his palm. His face lit up. My efforts are not in vain. I've even indirectly offended the demon cult. The abyss of death was the stronghold of the demon cult near the Empyrean sword sect. They chose this place because of the dangerous terrain. There were more than 10,000 primordial ferocious beasts in the surrounding Grand Myriad Mountains, as well as Marquis Realm ferocious beasts, which provided cover for them. It was not possible that ordinary Divine Sea and Enlightenment Realm disciples of the Empyrean Sword sect would come here to court death for no reason. Not to mention the various primordial ferocious beasts along the way. Even the turbulent black gas near the abyss of death was enough to trap them. And it was even more impossible that high-level cultivators would come to the abyss of death. After all, there were no spiritual herbs in the abyss of death. Originally, it could be said that the demon cult stronghold at this location was foolproof. Therefore, the demon cult did not arrange for a Marquis Realm Elder to guard it. However, they did not expect Shen Ran to accidentally discover this place. An ordinary disciple of the Empyrean Sword sect who had just broken through to the Illumination Realm had penetrated the stronghold in the abyss of death. The demon sect would probably spit out blood from fury. Meanwhile, Shen Ran sat cross-legged. He swallowed all the blood cloud powder he had obtained. In an instant, a vast amount of spiritual energy surged into his body like a whale absorbing water. Before Shen Ran could liquefy it into spiritual fluid, this vast amount of spiritual energy suddenly rushed towards his eyes. He felt his double pupils absorbing spiritual energy greedily, as if they were about to transform. Shen Ran's breathing quickened. Are my immortal eyes about to be activated? Compared to the unactivated immortal eyes, the two were like heaven and earth. The unactivated immortal eyes could only see through illusions and reach the essence of things. Once the immortal eyes were activated, one could obtain the pupil technique. It could bind the enemy, turn heaven and earth upside down, gain a reprieve from death, heal the body, and even kill the enemy with divine light. The strongest pupil technique could quell the chaos and restore the world. I wonder if I've activated that ability this time. Chapter 47. A world phenomenon shocking the southern region. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 47. A world phenomenon shocking the southern region. Shenran waited quietly. He absorbed all the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within a radius of thousands of miles. This spiritual energy continuously converged in his eyes. The next moment, a huge world phenomenon enveloped the entire Grand Myriad Mountains. Endless chaotic light rose, and blazing rays intertwined. Extremely rich Tao profundities flowed, and an auspicious aura appeared in the dark night sky. In the void, heavenly golden lotuses bloomed and fell. 1,000 rays of light and auspicious aura. In an instant, the entire world around the Grand Myriad Mountains became bright and dazzling. Countless experts turned to look. They looked at the vast phenomenon in the distant sky and exclaimed in shock or disbelief. The entire cultivation world of the southern region bustled with noise and excitement. Hiss. Lotus blooming in the void and flowers falling from the sky. What kind of monster is cultivating Bell.C? No. Look at the pair of eyes in the void. This seems to be a pupil technique. This Empyrean sword sect is really lucky. A monster just appeared a while ago, and now there's another one. Is it the Empyrean sword sect again? Could it be that Patriarch Empyrean has broken through? Countless old farts were shocked by the pair of eyes glowing with divine light in the void. Within the Empyrean sword sect, everyone was shocked too. At this moment, all the disciples of the Empyrean sword sect could see the extremely bright divine light in the night sky above the Grand Myriad Mountains. They stared at the terrifying eyes in the void that were interwoven with countless Tao profundities. Countless young disciples were jolted out of their cultivation. Countless outer sect disciples who forced themselves to view the immortal pupils were so badly shaken that they vomited blood. What is this situation? Could it be that a great peerless demon has appeared in the Grand Myriad Mountains? Who on earth could cause such a terrifying phenomenon? Those eyes are too terrifying. I only took a look and my cultivation level decreased. One disciple after another exclaimed, with astonishment all over their faces. Some of the weaker disciples only took a look at the immortal pupils and their cultivation of several years was destroyed. The seventh summit. Chen Beixian, who was in seclusion, suddenly woke up when he felt the vast phenomenon. Listening to the enthusiastic clamor, he looked in the direction of the Grand Myriad Mountains. He took a glance at the immortal pupils and snorted, his face turning pale. What's going on? I'd never heard of such a terrifying commotion in the Grand Myriad Mountains in my previous life. Chen Beixian looked at the sky dispiritedly and fearfully. He was a little afraid and panicky. He thought about it carefully. Ever since he was reborn, what he knew in the past had gradually changed. In his previous life, there was no one named Shenran in the sect. In his previous life, the chaos divine fruit in the Grand Myriad Mountains was his. And now, all the changes were beyond this reincarnated heavenly emperor's expectations. Meanwhile, in the depths of the first main peak of the Empyrean sword sect, where countless auspicious clouds gathered, an old figure slowly opened his eyes. He glanced into the void. He stared at the extremely bright night sky, the dazzling phenomenon of lights and golden lotuses. Especially, Patriarch Empyrean merely glanced at the pair of black pupils in the void and he felt a strong sense of unease. As if he continued to watch, it would bring him great danger. Patriarch Empyrean's eyes widened. This seems to be a pupil technique. What exactly is Shenran doing? First, you have a terrifying top. Notch aptitude, and now you've activated such a terrifying pupil technique. Could it be that you're the reincarnation of an ancient mighty figure? Or are you an immortal who has descended on earth? Patriarch Empyrean looked at the phenomenon in the sky in a daze. It seems that the Empyrean sword sect would rise this year. Now, there is possibly a reincarnation of an ancient mighty figure, an inheritor of the emperor bloodline, and a reincarnation of an immortal, Shenran. An ancient dispute, perhaps the legendary immortal ascension path that has been silent for several eras, is about to emerge. He was the Patriarch Empyrean who had lived for almost 10,000 years. When he was young, he heard a legend. Every time countless geniuses appeared in an era, it would be a golden era. The immortal ascension path would appear in front of all living beings. In the past, Patriarch Empyrean only treated it as a rumor. After all, there have been countless eras since the last golden age. Even the Azure Supreme the Arch from 30,000 years ago, Emperor Yen and Emperor Huang from 20,000 years ago, and the famous Empress Divine Phoenix from 10,000 years ago, had only become emperors. The Azure Supreme the Arch who killed the Outer Realm demons and gave the human race 30,000 years of respite was only close to the Great Freedom Realm. For tens of thousands of years, he had always treated this rumor as a story. But now, seeing the pair of immortal pupils activated by Shenran in the void, Patriarch Empyrean was a little shaken. It seemed the rumors of the Golden Age would unfold in this era. The outside world was in shock. However, at this moment, Shenran did not know about it. As a vast amount of spiritual energy poured into his eyes, his two pupils were gradually activated. It could be seen. His dark eyes glowed with a magical light. Countless complicated and mysterious runes glowed in his pupils. As the runes retracted and hid themselves, the phenomenon in the outside world gradually disappeared. Phew! I didn't expect to activate the immortal pupils this time and obtain one of the 10 great pupil techniques, Chaos World. Chaos World. He used his pupil technique to capture the essence and freeze the world. With Shenran's current strength at the Enlightenment Realm, he could only maintain it for a few seconds. However, in these few seconds, it was enough to determine between life and death. Chapter 48. Berserk Wang Qingxian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 48. Berserk Wang Qingxian. Although swallowing a large amount of blood cloud powder did not allow him to break through the shackles of a small realm. However, it accidentally activated the immortal pupils. He now had this pupil technique. It was not an exaggeration for Shenran to say that he was invincible to those below the 5th level of the Illumination Realm. Moreover, with a glance, he could instantly kill cultivators below the Illumination Realm. As for those above the 5th level of the Illumination Realm, be it his soul, body, or spiritual energy, they had all evolved to an even more extraordinary level. The strength between each small realm was worlds apart. Only a true prodigy could challenge a higher realm. It was even more difficult to kill an enemy a major realm apart. Sensing the terrifying energy of the immortal pupils, Shenran took a deep breath. The ancient desolate sacred body and supreme bones in my body have yet to be developed. The supreme bones had a technique which was a killing treasure. Every single one of these was extremely powerful. If he could completely develop the Supreme Bones treasure technique in his body, he would not be afraid to face the 9th level of the Illumination Realm even if he only had the strength of the 2nd level of the Illumination Realm now. However, I need a huge amount of resources to activate the treasure technique in the Supreme Bones. Now that I'm only the chief disciple of the 8th Summit, it's a pipe dream for me to obtain a large number of resources. He pondered over this. He calmed the excitement in his heart. It seems that only by demonstrating extraordinary skills in the sect tournament and becoming the Tao seed of the sect can I have a large amount of resources. The Tao seed was a reserve member of the Empyrean Tao child. So far, The Empyrean Sword sect did not have a Tao child candidate. There were only 3 Tao seeds. One was Wang Qingxian, who broke through to the Illumination realm in 2 years. Shen Ran knew very little about the other 2. They were all at the 4th summit of the inner sect. It was said that they were all extremely talented people. Much stronger than Wang Qingxian. However, now that he had broken through to the Illumination realm, his strength was not much inferior to Wang Qingxian. The Azure Dragon transformation with the ancient 7 transformations mystic could increase one's combat strength 100 times. This was something Wang Qingxian was not up to. Regarding the Tao seed matter, he would have to first deal with Wang Qingxian. He believed that with his top-notch aptitude, he would shine in the Empyrean Sword sect sooner or later. He shook his head. Shen Ran retracted his thoughts. He rose into the air and turned into a ray of light that returned to the Empyrean Sword sect. The next day. Early morning. Broken golden sun rays fell through the clouds in the sky and spread all over the earth. Second summit. L.RG in a glorious attic. Wang Qingxian, who was in seclusion, felt the voice transmission jade pendant at his waist tremble. If anyone dared to disturb his cultivation at this moment, he would definitely slap this person to death. However, this voice transmission jade token was given to him by a demon cult elder when he entered the demon cult. Suppressing his anger at being interrupted, Wang Qingxian poured spiritual energy into the jade token. Soon. A piece of information flooded his brain. What? The stronghold for refining the blood cloud powder has been destroyed. Hearing this news, Wang Qingxuan's face darkened and he cursed in his heart. Well, you refuse to give me the blood cloud powder. Now that it has been taken away, how can I cultivate in the future? After cursing in his heart, another of the demon cult elder's messages came from the jade token. He wanted Wang Qingxian to investigate this matter thoroughly and find out if the phenomenon in the Grand Myriad Mountains last night was related to the blood cloud powder. And investigate if it was done by a disciple of the Empyrean Sword sect. Wang Qingxian, who was suppressing his cursing, opened the door angrily. Everyone, come in. In an instant. His trusted aides rushed over immediately after receiving the message. When they arrived at the meeting hall, they saw that Wang Qingxian did not look too pleased, and everyone kept quiet out of fear. Until they heard that the stronghold where the blood cloud powder was refined had been destroyed. Only then did their expressions change. Who dares to be so bold as to have designs on our divine sect? Wang Qingxuan's face darkened as he said coldly, don't I want to know too? Looking at the fuming Wang Qingxian, a 9th-level divine sea demon cult disciple stood out from the crowd. Your Highness, the most important thing now is to find out who did it to the divine sect. Hearing this, Wang Qingxian held back his anger. Last night, did any of you know which of those disciples of the Empyrean Sword sect went out? A demon cult disciple went to investigate. Soon. He got the result. Other than the other 2 Empyrean Tao seeds, only a few outer sect disciples entered and left the Empyrean Sword sect last night. Wang Qingxian was clearly not convinced by this outcome. Are you kidding? A few outer sect disciples at the Qi refinement realm could destroy a demon cult stronghold with more than 100 divine sea cultivators. Wang Qingxian glanced at everyone present in disappointment. Continue investigating. The young man with the highest cultivation level among them said sinisterly, Your Highness, it will take time for us to investigate further. Why don't we lay the blame on Shen Ran for this crime? What do you mean? Wang Qingxian, who was originally a little angry, asked curiously. This Shen Ran intercepted your blood cloud powder last time. Perhaps he knew the secret of our divine sect and should have been dismembered. So we should report to the elders of the sect that Shen Ran was the one who did this and ask the sect to allocate resources. The young man with the glazed eyes slowly explained his plan. When Wang Qingxian heard this, he immediately revealed a kind smile. He liked the plan very much. Shen Ran had offended him and intercepted the blood cloud powder sent by the demon cult, causing his cultivation speed to decrease. It made Wang Qingxian want to tear Shen Ran to pieces. It did not matter if Shen Ran was the one who did it this time. He only needed to tell the demon cult about Shen Ran's abnormal increase in strength and the upcoming sect tournament. Then, the demon cult would definitely give him resources to deal with Shen Ran in the sect tournament. This was killing two birds with one stone. As for the elders of the sect finding out that the blood cloud powder stronghold was not destroyed by Shen Ran, what of it? At that time, he, Wang Qingxian, would have already gotten rid of Shen Ran and put down roots in the Empyrean Sword sect. The elders of the sect would only pretend that nothing had happened. Chapter 49. Going to the fourth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 49. Going to the fourth summit to learn alchemy. Half a day later. Wang Qingxian, who was waiting anxiously for a reply, finally felt the voice transmission jade at his waist vibrate again. Immediately, he injected his spiritual energy and a piece of information surged into his mind. It worked. First, the message blamed him. Then he was told that a batch of pills and the remaining blood cloud powder would be sent over in a few days. And he had to remove the destabilizing element, Shen Ran, in the sect tournament. After reading this message, Wang Qingxian smiled coldly. He now had the enhancement of the pills and the blood cloud powder. It wouldn't take him long to break through to the next small realm. Then killing Shen Ran would be easy for him. As if he was imagining breaking Shen Ran's bones and making him kneel, Wang Qingxian couldn't help but laugh out loud. Shen Ran. I'll let you hop around for a few more days. The sect tournament in half a month will be your time of death. At this moment, Shen Ran, who was in seclusion on the 8th summit, did not know about Wang Qingxuan's plan. Even if he knew, he would have laughed it off. Everyone had the right to kill the members of the demon cult. Even if Wang Qingxuan's plan succeeded, and the demon cult gave him a lot of resources, he was no match for Shen Ran. In the room, Shen Ran sat cross-legged and absorbed the surrounding spiritual energy. As the cultivation technique circulated, his body seemed to have turned into a black hole, and his robe fluttered. When the cycle ended, he suddenly opened his mouth and exhaled. In an instant, a white stream of air rushed out suddenly and extended for several meters, tearing noisily through the sky. This white stream lingered in the sky for a few moments before gradually dissipating. It was quite magical. At the same time, in his eyes, countless mysterious runes radiated a strange light, looking extremely flirtatious. After retracting the divine light in his eyes, Shen Ran muttered softly, "I've already mastered the killing technique of the immortal pupils. The sect tournament is less than half a month away. If I want to continue improving my strength, it will not do to just cultivate diligently." The effects of hard work were minimal because the resources he needed now were massive. As for waiting for an opportunity, Shen Ran had already tried that yesterday. There were not many disciples in the Empyrean Sword sect who had opportunities other than Chen Beixian, who was always hunting for the best deals. Shen Ran had already intercepted all the major opportunities. The latest opportunity would have to wait until next month. He couldn't waste his time like this. Suddenly, Shen Ran thought of the spiritual herbs in his storage bag. The fire lingji and the heaven and earth spirit marrow were very useful to illumination realm cultivators. If he could refine them into pills, it might allow him to break through a small realm. One should not underestimate a small realm. With his current strength, he could easily kill a 5th-level illumination realm expert. If his cultivation level went up another 2 levels of the illumination realm, even the 7th level of the illumination realm would not be his match. Furthermore, if he learned how to refine pills, he could refine some spiritual pills needed for the Qi refinement and divine Sea realms. This way, Shen Yueshuang's cultivation speed would undoubtedly increase a lot. Only a mature Empress Divine Phoenix could help him. He pondered over this. Then he got up and went straight to the Myriad Medicine Pavilion. The Myriad Medicine Pavilion had always been crowded. This was a venue set up by the sect for learning alchemy. No matter which summit the disciple was from, they would come here as long as they were willing to learn alchemy. At this moment, Shenran squeezed through the crowd and arrived at the entrance of the Myriad Medicine Pavilion. The Myriad Medicine Pavilion had 9 levels. Every level emitted flickering light. At the entrance, a majestic black stone tower dozens of feet tall stood erect. This stone tower was the symbol of the Myriad Medicine Pavilion. Lines of writing were clearly visible on the tower. They represented rankings. Arranged in a descending order, there were 1,000 ranks in total. There were pictures and names at the top. Those whose names were on the stone tower were undoubtedly very talented and accomplished in alchemy. At this moment, there was a dazzling design on the top level of the black stone tower. It was an image of a small sword. This was the second-generation sect master of the Empyrean sect, Luo Jimo. Thousands of years ago, he took the entire southern region by storm with his dazzling alchemy aptitude. He was known as the #1 alchemist in the southern region. It allowed the Empyrean sword sect to prosper for thousands of years. But the second-generation sect master of the Empyrean sect was obsessed with alchemy all year round and did not continue to break through before his death. He died with deep regrets. This caused the Empyrean sword sect to gradually decline. And in the second row below, there was also a glittering name. Her name was Zhao Honglian. This name was not unfamiliar to Shenran. He had heard of her when he was still a disciple of the 9th summit. Although this woman came from an ordinary family, a senior from the Empyrean sword sect had discovered her astonishing aptitude a few years ago. After she was introduced into the sect and they observed her aptitude, she caused a sensation in the entire Empyrean sword sect. She actually had a rare wood attribute spiritual body. She even had the legendary 10,000 wood body that countless alchemists dreamed of. Not only was her cultivation speed several times faster than that of ordinary people, but she also had astonishing potential in alchemy. In the end, she was accepted by an Emperor Realm Elder and became a disciple of the 6th summit. She had many admirers in the sect. Just as Shenran was looking at the rankings on the stone tower, there was suddenly a commotion behind him. Look! It's senior sister Zhao who's ranked second. Shenran turned around and saw a long rainbow descending from the distance. In the rainbow was a graceful woman in green clothes. This woman's black hair was blowing in the wind. Her eyes were like the stars and the cold moon, and her skin was fair and delicate. She was like a fairy from a painting. Chapter 50. Who is this Shenran? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50. Who is this Shenran? After Zhao Honglian landed, she went straight to the Myriad Medicine Pavilion without even looking at the disciples. Her appearance created quite a stir among them. I finally see senior sister Zhao. I wonder if she can outrank the second-generation ancestor this time. Senior sister Zhao will definitely succeed this time and reach the first step of the 9th level. Senior sister Zhao's goal is to surpass the second-generation ancestor and become the unprecedented frontrunner of the stone tower. I heard that as long as you become #1, you can obtain the alchemy insights of the second-generation ancestor. That was an existence that shocked the entire southern region back then. Meanwhile, in Shenran's line of vision, he saw a narration appear on Zhao Honglian's body. Opportunity 1. This is an Empyrean disciple with extremely high alchemy talent. On June 21, 3074, she took the assessment at the Empyrean Sword Sect's Myriad Medicine Pavilion and successfully obtained the alchemy inheritance of the second-generation sect master of the Empyrean Sword Sect, Luo Jimo. Back then, he successfully broke through to the Illumination realm and became a core disciple of the Empyrean Sword Sect. Because of his terrifying talent in alchemy and the alchemy inheritance of the Emperor realm, he became a famous 7th rank alchemist in the southern region in just 100 years. Even a martial monarch realm expert would invite him to be a guest. Shen Ran listened silently. He was not very interested in pill refinement. However, he had to admit that the second-generation sect master back then was powerful. Despite being besieged by the demon cult back then, the second-generation sect master, Luo Jima, forcibly developed the Empyrean Sword sect into the #1 sect in the southern region. Most of this was because of his status as an alchemist. Shen Ran shook his head. Then he strode to the first floor of the Myriad Medicine Pavilion. He had just entered when his mind exploded and his vision blurred. When it became clear, he found himself in an illusory space. Before he could look around carefully, a cold voice could be heard. Within half an hour, identify the spiritual herbs and their uses. The successful person will advance to the second level. As this cold voice faded, countless spiritual herbs appeared suddenly in front of Shen Ran. They were densely packed together and there were no less than 10,000 of them. There were herbs of every description and there were so many of them, as far as the eyes could see. It was also because of these herbs that those disciples of the Empyrean Sword sect who had their names on the stone tower were envied by countless people. Although there were 1,000 names on the stone tower, it was not easy to get one's name there. It had been nearly 5,000 years since the stone tower was built. Generations of Empyrean sect disciples had left their names there. And those who entered the top 10 were specially taken care of by the sect. If one was talented enough, one might even be valued by an elder and accepted as a disciple. Even a Dao seed like Wang Qingxian had tried to enter the Myriad Medicine Pavilion. Unfortunately, none of the 3 Dao seeds in the sect had the aptitude to refine pills. As countless spiritual herbs appeared, Shen Ran frowned. He had the wood spirit body and the immortal pupils, and his ability to remember was strong. Speaking of which, he had a natural affinity for alchemy. However, he did not expect there to be so many spiritual herbs. Hurry up and take the assessment, he told himself. Shen Ran seized the time and grabbed the spiritual herb in front of him with his right hand. Then he used his magic power to mark the name and use of this thing. In a few seconds, he had identified dozens of spiritual herbs. Star leaf grass. It becomes medicine in 30 years and a spirit in 100 years. Pick the main stem and bake it. It can be used as a supplementary medicine for the qi condensation pill. The 9-spirit flower grows in places with dense spiritual energy. This herb has 9 leaves, and when all the leaves fuse together, they transform into a snow-white spiritual flower. It's one of the main herbs of the spirit-gathering pill. His hands did not stop. They were like shadows darting through the air. 100, 200, 300, 500. Shen Ran's expression was calm, as if he was not daunted by the overwhelming spiritual herbs in front of him. If the disciples outside saw this scene, they would definitely gasp. The assessment of the Myriad Medicine Pavilion was reputed to be the most difficult test in the sect. Ordinary people would take a few seconds to identify the use of a spiritual herb. Some would encounter combinations of spiritual herbs, which threw them into a state of confusion and embarrassment. How could one be as relaxed as Shen Ran? Time passed. 2,000, 5,000. Shen Ran's pupils flickered with a strange divine light, as if he had seen through the essence of these spiritual herbs. Finally, within half an hour, he had identified all the overwhelming spiritual herbs in front of him. At this moment, the cold voice from the Myriad Medicine Pavilion could be heard again. In less than half an hour, the assessment is completed. Do you want to proceed to the second level of the assessment? Shen Ran did not refuse and went straight to the second level. As his surroundings suddenly changed, a huge cauldron and countless spiritual herbs appeared in front of him. Is this assessment about refining pills? As expected, the cold voice could be heard again, confirming Shen Ran's guess. Please refine 10 types of Tier 1 elixirs within an hour. When Shen Ran heard this, the calm expression on his face gradually became solemn. This is a little challenging. Tier 1 elixirs. These were elixirs that were effective for the Qi refinement realm. Other than the most ordinary Qi refinement powder and Qi refinement pills, there were dozens of other types. Shenran did not pause. Before he came to the Myriad Medicine Pavilion, he had already checked the books on various elixirs. Not to mention refining a perfect supreme grade elixir. However, it was not too difficult to successfully advance to the third level. His magic power turned into flames. While firing up the furnace, he carefully placed various spiritual herbs inside. He formed a seal with both hands, and the furnace kept buzzing and shaking. Soon he refined 10 types of Tier 1 elixirs. He entered straight into the third level of the Myriad Medicine Pavilion. Meanwhile, outside the Myriad Medicine Pavilion. At this moment, Shenran's name quickly made it to the stone tower because he took the least time to complete the assessments. Someone with sharp eyes discovered Shenran's name at the end of the rankings. Who is this Shenran?